Okay, it's starting live now.
Mike. All right.
Almost there.
Sure we're good.
Now
Looks like we're good.
Now
There
it's
we
live.
go. Looks like we're live now. All right. Well, Seth, thanks so much to you and Ashley Eisenbell for having Mike Bozich and I on as we discuss some PA handicapping. It's Wager Warriors time in Pennsylvania. And Mike, this is a program that you've got to see grow firsthand at Harris Philadelphia, obviously due to the COVID-19 saga, so to speak. Things have had to change a little bit.
Yeah, no question about it. But you know what? This is such a very important thing, Mike. And we've talked, like I said on the show this morning on our Post Time with Mike and Mike program, we have talked at nauseum, at length, about how important it is, to try to get new people involved. And one of the ways we can do that, Mike, is we have to educate new people. People have to know what they're doing when they get to the racetrack. And people have to have basic questions answered. And that's what Seth and the guys do. I mean, they try to answer those very basic questions, Mike, that, we take for granted a lot of times. I mean, we are harness racing regulars, Mike. We take them for granted a lot of times. So it's good to have people like Seth and Ashley and people walking through the stands and answering those basic questions. And Seth, you had a really good story on the program today. I tell, for those of you that didn't tune into the Post Time with Mike and Mike show today, Seth, tell them that story about the people that you give the information to, you let them to make good, educated wagers, and next thing you know, they were $70, $100 ahead.
Yeah, we go around when we're actually at the track and give the $2 vouchers out. There were people at Pocono last year on the balcony we went up to. They had walked over from the casino, never been to the races. With their $2 voucher, we gave them a tip sheet. Off of their $2 voucher, they won $74 on their first bet, and then just kept wheeling that back overnight and left with what? They had to be well over 100 till they left. Yeah. And then I've seen them back there since then.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's what Mike and I are here to sort of talk about with you over the next 40 or so minutes. Feel free to drop questions into the Facebook feed. Seth and Ashley and those guys will be forwarding those questions to us, and we will make sure that we take the time to answer them. We're going to take a look at a couple of programs over the next, say, 45 minutes or so. We're going to take a look at Harris Philadelphia for tomorrow, and also take a look at Penn National for tomorrow night. Lots of great racing coming up in the state of Pennsylvania. And Mike, let's just kind of touch on the basic wagers. For those people who are new to racing, there's a lot of different things that can go on. There's horizontal bets, there's vertical bets, there's exactas, there's pick fours. There's a lot of things going on. But for at least for me, I don't like to teach people the show bet right away. I know, a lot of people, that's what they teach them originally. But how upset would you be as a new person? And I try to get people to understand this. If you took your $2 and made your bet and your horse finished in the top 3, and the guy, for your $2 wager, the guy hands you back $2.20, you're not going to be too happy, right? So I like to teach people the win bet.
You know what, Mike? Honestly, that is kind of one of my pet peeves. And going back to my Hazel Park days, Mike, and you've had a chance to fill in at Hazel Park, especially on the dollar days on Friday, and this going back to my Michigan days. You've seen the dollar crowds, the crowds on dollar days used to get 4,000-5,000 people. They used to jam the apron.
Yeah.
And one of my pet peeves is what you just mentioned. Here you have a first timer coming to the racetrack for the very first or second time, not really there to wager, but there for the social aspect of it. Like there to have a couple hot dogs and have a couple beers and do a few different, just basically mingle.
Yep.
And they, not being very astute to wagering, they'll go put a couple of bucks to show on a horse. And here they come down the stretch. They're screaming and hollering. Their horse finishes second or third, and hey, it's the best thing that happened, right? And then when they go to the teller and they get their 10 or 20 cents back along with their $2 back, they're like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got an excellent story like that actually. It was from and Seth, I hope you don't mind us telling a couple stories, wagering stories where we're teaching new people. But
Go ahead.
I remember I was working at Buffalo Raceway, and you know, if you've never worked on a Kentucky Derby Day or Preakness Day or Belmont, you gotta do it. You absolutely have to do it. It is so much fun. But you know, this woman came up to me and she said, I want to bet 5 horses to plates. Or excuse me, I think it was 4 horses to plates. And I said, whoa, I said, come on over here, let's talk. And so basically she wanted to spend $8 to pick 8 horses to place. And this was the year American Pharoah won the Triple Crown. Well, I was able to talk her into a 5 horse exacta box, which would cost $12 more. So a total of $20. It's a smarter bet. I said, you know, basically explain the same concept. Not only did she win in the Derby, I think the exacta came back something crazy like $100 or something crazy like that. But not only did she hit there, she came right back in the Preakness. American Pharoah won that with Dallas Stewart's horse at 99-1, finishing second. And then she come right back in the Belmont, and she was just as happy as could be because she was winning money. And so I think we have to teach people how to wager smart, not necessarily how to easily win money. And it's great for the racetrack too. From a racetrack management standpoint, if I talk a customer from spending $8 into $20, my manager is going to be happy with me if I can pull that off 6, 7, 8 times.
Well, one of the things about it, we as a racetrack, we want you to win. I think that's where it all starts.
Yep.
Before we get any further, Mike, real quick, I think we should introduce ourselves for those of you that don't know, because I know this is streaming over the PHRA website. I'm Mike Bozich. I'm the track announcer at Harrah's Philadelphia, also the host of the Post Time with Mike and Mike show. This is the better half of the Mike and Mike show, Mike Carter.
The prettier half is Mike Bozich.
Well, I don't know about that, but he is Mike Carter. He is the one of the guys that works so diligently at the United States Draughting Association on the social media side of it. Mike, you do a lot of great things. Very, very creative. Of course, Mike is the other half of Post Time with Mike and Mike. We have a program, a podcast every morning at 10:30 where we interview trainers, drivers, anybody that's got anything to do with the sport of racing. So that's who we are. But Mike, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, people, I think, don't realize that the track actually wants you to win, because the racetrack takes a percentage off the top. And after that, it's all, you know, we want money in bettors' pockets, because if bettors have money in their pockets, if they're winning, they're going to bet more. The racetrack gets a slice no matter if you win or lose. And it's the same slice no matter if you win or if you lose. So racetracks actually want you to win. I think that's the first thing that has to, be clarified. As far as types of wagers, Mike, when I'm trying to teach, and I know Seth and Ashley and you and everybody that tries to teach people tries to take the same approach. We don't necessarily try or want to tell you who to wager off the bat. I mean, hey, if you're new to it, look at the names. Look at your favorite post positions, your favorite colors, your favorite drivers. If a horse looks nice or pretty on the racetrack, go ahead and do that. I think it's important that people learn how to wager effectively with the types of wagers, to understand the types of wagers there are. There's win, place, show. There's exacta, trifecta, superfecta, 50-cent jackpot, high five in some cases. And of course, you have your horizontal bets, Mike, like you were mentioning, pick threes, daily doubles, pick fours, pick fives, pick sixes in some cases. And you're right. I think you do want to start at square one, but not show square one. You don't want to have show as your square one. I think you want to take a horse and you want to bet him to win, because in my opinion, the show bet is just, I don't know, it's just not worth it. And it's really going to discourage a lot of first-time bettors, Mike, like you said, because they're going to be screaming, hooping and hollering for the horse to come down the stretch. And if they only pay $210, $220, $240 to show, in my opinion, that's an instant turnoff.
Yeah, for sure. Todd Kanashak, who's watching, thanks, Todd, for checking out the Facebook feed. He, let's see, his comment is gone. I was going to read directly from it. Seth, if you can get his comment for me, because he actually made some really good points in his comment. So if we could have that back whenever you get a second.
He said education is key.
Education is key. I know he mentioned some other sports, but one thing about it is the program is not easy to read. Seth, you have a copy of the program with you, right? Can you share your screen for us? We're going to take a look at the program now, and Seth is going to, share the screen. You're going to still be able to see us, so feel free to jump in and ask questions or what have you. And we're going to kind of talk about a regular program page, what it looks like, what it contains, and where we're getting that information from. Lots of great racing action coming up this weekend. Mike, you guys have Stallion Series action at Harrah's Philadelphia coming up this weekend. Let's see, it looks like this is Penn National for tomorrow night. So let's take a look. Seth, can you zoom in a little bit for us?
Yeah, do you want to go? We'll go to this one.
Let's see where we are. First race. So Mike, obviously looking at this page, and there's different types of programs. There's the daily racing form, there's the BRISNet program, there's the PHRA style form that you're looking at here, which I believe you guys get it from Trackmaster. There is the one you get on track, but pretty much they look the same, Mike. And so obviously if we look at the one Mike's Angel, let's talk a little bit about,
Megan's Angel.
What they see, excuse me, Megan's Angel, sorry. There's a reason I'm not an announcer.
No, you are actually.
But let's take a look at Megan's Angel, number one. And obviously lots of information there, but Mike, sort of take them through a little bit about what they're looking at.
Well, see, this is tough because, you basically, if you're somebody that's looking at this for the first time, that, it's hieroglyphics. And I try to, basically when somebody's looking at the program for the first time, I try to tell them, hey, listen, your best bet is to look at the record of the horse and look at his lifetime earnings. And I think people can relate to that. I'm not sure people can relate so much to the lines or the numbers. Like you see Megan's Angel, like if you see his chart lines, 8x12, 8x13, 8x14, that is so confusing to people right off the bat. And now people will get it eventually, but it's like you have to lay a trail. You have to lay a trail of breadcrumbs. First thing you want to do is look at the record of the horse. And you can see right away, number one, a second-time starter. There you go, Mike. He's got one start in 2020, 0 wins, 0 seconds, 0 thirds. Okay. You're looking at, in that box again, you're looking at his turf statistics. Now, today's race, I believe, it is on the turf.
Yep, mile and 70.
Okay, so this is his first start on the turf. He did not have any starts in 2019. It gives you information for soft racetrack, and it gives you a record for the distance. What has the horse done at the distance? Today's distance is 1 mile and 70 yards. The distance that he ran before, and Mike, if you want to circle that, I don't know if you do it, the distance that this horse ran before was 5.5 furlongs.
Yep.
So I think if you're, and there you go, I think if, you're close. If, you want to look at the records, like Mike, if you want to make a direct comparison between racing and other sports, what do people look at when they look at the NBA, the NFL, MLB, NHL? They look at records. They look at records. Hey, the Chicago Blackhawks are 34-17. Wow, they must be a good team. Well, if you see a horse that's raced 35 times or 34 times and has won 17 starts, well, hey, that must be a pretty decent horse.
Look at the NCAA tournament. Nobody knows who some of these basketball teams are.
Right.
UMBC, exactly. All these guys, they don't know who they are. So they're looking at records to fill out their brackets.
So I steer people, and once or twice a year, we do a little thing in the clubhouse at Harrah's Philadelphia. And I give my, little spiel. I steer people to look at the records because, I think for the novice player, for the player that is just starting, I think that is something that they can relate to. That is something they can compare to other sports. and it's something that makes sense to them. It just hey, if I say, listen, Megan's Angel went 5.5 furlongs last time, started 8th, was 12 lengths out, 13 lengths out, 14 lengths out, may have not liked the distance, gets a jockey change today, first time lacing, all this other stuff. They're gonna be like, what the heck are you talking about? If I say, hey, the horse has raced one time, or we'll just use a different example because it's a maiden race, but we'll say the horse ran 20 times and has 3 wins, 4 seconds, 3/3. Then they're like, wow, I can relate to that. He's won 3 races out of 20 starts. So I gear people towards the record when they're first starting. I think that's the easiest way to do it. And then after that, I think they could kind of, pick up on speed ratings and trainer success and jockey success and other, variables of handicapping.
Last summer when we did this, by this time in the summer, we told them look more towards the seasonal record because that's what it did as late. That's not as easy right now since we didn't race for 3 months, but that showed them a little bit more how it has been done, especially with the older horses more recently.
Right. Yeah, and I'm a big stats guy. I'm a huge stats guy, and that's hard to teach somebody who's new. When we take a look at the Harris Philadelphia program here in a little bit, I assume we're going to have a program that looks like this, but I've got what they call a Trackmaster program. And the Trackmaster program really dives deep into some of those heavy hitting stats. And I'm a huge stats fan. And that's, where that comes from. But all racing really is, to a lot of people, Mike, is a numbers game.
Well, the thing about stats, Mike, it's like fantasy football. It's like fantasy baseball. You can go as deep as you want to.
That's
when
exactly
you're talking
right.
about stats. I mean, you could go totally as deep as you want to. As a matter of fact, I like to watch and this is going to sound crazy. I like to watch a baseball game that's a blowout. And the reason why is because you listen to these announcers and they start giving you like obscure stats, like so-and-so may have 30 home runs on the year, okay, but only 2 of those home runs were hit during the day. Things like that. Crazy stats like that. And that's what makes baseball great. Baseball was made, I hate to say it, because fantasy baseball was really the first to come around before fantasy football and anything ever happened. But baseball, especially fantasy baseball, it's for nerds. It's for nerds.
Yeah.
Horse racing is the same thing. Horse racing is the exact same thing. And you know why? Because, Mike, you know this. Seth, you know this. You can get 10 people around a table and you could look at the program. 10 people are going to see 10 different things. And that's the great thing about the sport.
Well, and that comes back to bite you every once in a while because, I mean, how many times, Mike, have I talked you off of a horse or vice versa? And, it happens. There are so many different aspects of a race that I think people can look at. I mean, there's speed horses, there's closing horses. There's just so many things that can go right, could go wrong, the trip dependent, replays. I mean, you could, like Mike said, dive very deep into stats and figures and trying to figure out what each horse is going to do.
There's times I talk myself off of horses.
Yeah, I've done the same thing.
Of course, absolutely. But, once again, and that's the great thing about handicapping, guys, is it can be as complex as you want it to be. It could be as simple as you want it to be. Really, that's the great thing about racing. That's the great thing about our business and our industry is that, it can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. And sometimes I feel people, the old adage, study long, study wrong. You both have heard it. Maybe sometimes people like me and Mike, who have to do this for a living, who have to talk about this for a living, who have to, analyze these races and handicap these races, maybe we do look too much into it. And maybe a lot of times it is as simple as, hey, horse A has won 5 times in his life. Horse B has won 0 times in his life. Who's better, horse A or horse B? Maybe it's as simple as horse A, even though horse B has had troubled trips and is getting a driver change and a trainer change and a change of equipment. And just, So sometimes simplicity is better. Sometimes it's not. That's what makes this such a great game, is because, like I said, you can put 10 different people around a table and 10 different people are going to see the exact same race a different way.
Yeah, and a key to that, and I'll use the Pepsi North America Cup from a few years back where Wiglet Jiglet got beat. I mean, just nailed right on the line by Wakizashi Hanover. And this was the scene of what I would call a situation where you need to make a smart bet. We know Wiglet Jiglet's going to be 1-9, Mike, and that's the key to it. Wiglet Jiglet's going to be 1-9. Is there anybody in the field that can beat Wiglet Jiglet? Well, that night I happened to find Wakizashi Hanover after the elimination the week before. And the key is to kind of zone in on those figures and just hammer it. I know I had like a $20 straight exacta that night on the Wakizashi Hanover Wiglet Jiglet. And it's because I had so much confidence in that horse, and it wound up paying great with a 1-9 shot. I don't care what anybody says, you can make money with a 1-9 favorite.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And that's why I think a lot of times, and I know we're showing a program page on our feed. I think a lot of times, where we have to go with people, new people, is I think we have to teach them how to wager first before we teach them who to wager. Mm-hmm. I think it's important for people to realize how they can play exactas, how they can play trifectas. People don't realize, okay, so when you say the definition of exacta, you say, okay, well, you have to pick the top 2 finishers in order. People don't realize that, and they think it's a $2 minimum wager. People don't realize that they can say, well, how about instead of just going 3-2, how about if I go 3 with 1-2? Or how about I go 1 with 2-3? Oh, you can do that? Absolutely you can.
We've ran into that quite a bit doing this. They don't even know like exacta box and teach them that.
Yeah.
Or even that they can use multiple horses in. Even like the pick 5 at Pocono, that's 20 cents. They didn't know they could use more than one horse.
And give you a prime example. The way I explain that is, who here plays the lottery?
Right. That's a very good point, Mike.
That's exactly what I use. Is you can play the lottery straight, you can play it straight in box, you can do whatever you want with those numbers. That's exactly the way I teach it when I'm talking to a bunch of new folks. Is if you play the lottery, you can understand exactas and trifectas.
I agree, and that I think is very important. And I know Seth and Ashley and them guys there, they try different approaches to try to get people to play, and I think that's why I'm such a fan of theirs. To be honest, and Seth, I'm not saying that to make your head huge. I mean, you guys are really doing a great job in terms of trying to teach people how to wager and do that. And it's what's amazing to me. What's amazing to me are the questions that people actually have. And they are so basic. Mike, we are so into, when we get together in handicap, we're so into the little known. I don't want to say little known things because with people that know how to play racing are right in that. But I mean, we're talking about trips. We're talking about driver changes and trainer changes and equipment changes and little maybe hints in the horse's last race or last race that may be coming into form. We're looking at that kind of stuff. And the reason we're looking at that kind of stuff is because we're trying to find value. Yep. I mean, there's an old saying, Mike and Seth, you can't beat the races, but you can beat a race.
Yes.
And, if you study the game, it could really be profitable. It could be a very profitable game and a very profitable venture, but it's like anything else. It's like being successful fantasy football, fantasy baseball. You have to study. You have to know who the players are. You have to know who the horses are. There's little things that you have to know that you can make money. And I'll give you a good example. You have different meets that come throughout the year. Okay. You have tracks that are open for 3, 4, 5 months, tracks close, tracks open back up, tracks close. You have horses and you have trainers that have different philosophies. Some trainers, when these meets open up, have horses ready to go. No matter what they look like on the program, the last 2 or 3 races could be complete duds. They may not have beaten a horse the last 2 or 3 starts. But you know what? Maybe over the time off, this horse is trained. He's trained well. The others, maybe not so much. And that's how you find your value. That's how you find your dark horses. That's how you find the horses, Mike. Little things like that is how you find horses that are going to reward your pocketbook.
The key to wagering is to find the weakness in the public and hammer it. That's really what it comes down to. Find the weakness in the public and hammer it, because you don't know how many times harness racing has about a 40% favorites win ratio. But if you can find that time where the other 60% of the time that the favorite doesn't win, those are the times where you're going to make your money. And, if you can make money 60% of the time, I tell people all the time, don't play every race. Don't try to play every race. Play the races where you see the value and see things of that sort. We're going to continue this conversation through the Harris Philadelphia program as well. Seth, do you have that brought up by chance?
Yeah, it'll be a minute, but I have.
That's okay. Take your time. I'm going to do some reintroducing. Mike Carter alongside of Mike Bozich from Post Time with Mike and Mike. Mike Bozich, the race caller at Harris Philadelphia and the social media and publicity coordinator with the United States Trotting Association. Thanks so much for taking time out of your Thursday night to be here with us as we talk about handicapping. This is the Wager Warriors segment. Please feel free, as the PHRA has alluded to post questions. We're here to answer them. Thanks, Thomas, for sending us your question earlier. But Mike and I are here discussing Wager Warriors, and what that is a program that the PHRA has set up to help teach people how to handicap at the races, teach people how to read the program, how to bet, things of that sort. And obviously, things are a little bit mixed up, Mike, with COVID-19, but we're thankful that they allowed us this forum to talk about the races. And one race I want to look at tomorrow, Mike, is at Harris Philadelphia, and it's not even one of the Stallion Series races, which is I'll let you explain what that is here in a minute. It's actually race number 2 for 2-year-olds, and I want everybody to kind of look at the program when Seth brings it up, because this is one of those things where you're going to see a difference between thoroughbred and harness racing from a qualifier standpoint. Thoroughbreds don't have to qualify. They do workouts to get ready for the races. Mike, tell us a little bit about, what you see differences from there.
Well, standardbred horses have to qualify. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been in this business for 25, 30 years. And, it's tough because we pose the question a lot, Mike, to our guest handicappers when they come on. We pose it to Derek Givner. We've posed it to Dave Brower, a lot of different people. What do you look for in qualifiers?
Yep.
I think that's a very important question. And that is today's program, by the way. Is that what we're looking at today's, or we want to look at tomorrow's?
Oh, shoot. You know what? That's okay. That's fine. Let's look at
Well, you know what?
Fine.
I could pick the winner of this race.
Yeah, I'm sure you could, but that's okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
The second race tomorrow is a 2-year-old race, but we could. This will settle my point here. Okay, and Mike, don't tell us who won. I'm going to try to pick the winner just by looking at it. Actually,
this is good that we're doing this. Go ahead.
But so let's look at number 3. I'll drink to that. And there's a horse tomorrow.
I'll drink to that.
There's a horse tomorrow that Seth and I actually like in the second race, driven by Andy Miller, number 4 Padre for trainer Julie Miller, but it's coming off a similar qualifier to this. And so you looking at I'll drink to that, and you're like, man, what in the world is a qualifier? Where did this horse qualify at? So you read the line across, and basically this was at a fair in Ohio, I believe. Go back. Oh no, you know what? It wasn't at a fair in Ohio.
That's a training center.
Yeah, I thought it was Canfield, but that is not Canfield. So that is a training center in New Jersey. But Dexter Dunn drove the horse, and this is one of those times, Mike, where with a 2-year-old, On the thoroughbred side, you're not going to see any lines like this. You're not going to see racing lines at all. But with the harness racers, you are.
Yeah. What you see in thoroughbreds is workouts.
Yep.
And workouts, you know, kind of like qualifiers, I think they have their own little mystery to them. You know, every handicapper you talk to on the thoroughbred side is going to tell you things about workouts that they're just going to give you their own opinions on workouts. Some put a lot of credence into them, some put no credence into them. Some, you know, a middle road down the ways. A lot of people like to see workouts spaced out. They think that dates of workouts are more important than the actual performance in the workout, which I kind of agree with that tendency of thinking. What you see here in qualifiers, you know, what to look for in qualifiers, I think, is the question. And I've been struggling with that, Mike, for a long time. I've come to the conclusion that what you want to look for in qualifiers is a solid back half.
Yep.
That's what I've come to the conclusion. That seems
well,
to be
they're huge. I mean, they're like
safest
53, 54. I mean, we're seeing 52, 53, 54 back halves. I mean, that's huge for some of these horses. And, you know, we talk about how much in harness racing anyway, speed dominates. A lot of times, if you can get on or near the lead, you're a winner.
Caroline Vasquez from Diamond Creek said we get asked all the time in the office from new owners and thoroughbred people what a qualifier actually is, because many have never heard of the concept.
Okay, so basically, and you know, we went through this, and I think we lost Mike, so I'm going to do some talking with you here, Seth. But you know, there was a huge discussion when racing came back from the COVID break. Why do we need qualifiers? Why do we need qualifiers? And I'm not going to get into the logistics of why or why not or what have you, but from a gambler's perspective, because I understand the other side of it, you know, for the horsemen, they've been off, you know, 3, 4, 5 months. So it's tough to make them go race for zero money in in every instance. So it's tough to make them, tough to make anybody race for zero money. But those qualifiers from a gambler standpoint, the perfect example of that, Seth, is when Ohio was coming back. I got to witness all of the Scioto Downs qualifiers. And the first weekend at Scioto Downs, they actually brought me in to handicap the card. And I had 2 winners that paid over $80 because I had watched the qualifier and watched them get ready. And what you spot in qualifiers isn't always what you think you're looking for. If Seth has the 1-9 favorite in the Meadowlands Pace and he enters a qualifier, chances are, you know, he's, you know, let's get the horse around. Let's get him qualified. That's the goal. If he wins, great. If he doesn't, that's fine. If he runs off the screen, that's fine too. But get him qualified. That is the goal, just to get him qualified. But from a gambler's perspective, let's just say Seth owns Bettor's Wish, okay? And Bettor's Wish comes into the race. Obviously, he gets the 10 hole because, you know, that's what they, you know, some tracks do, is they put some of those better horses on the outside to let some of those inside horses qualify, you know, what have you. And let's say one of the 2-year-olds from tomorrow's second race is in the field. And let's just use Jack Fire #1 as an example. If you are watching the qualifier and Bettor's Wish runs off the screen, but Jack's Fire comes at him and, you know, puts in a pretty big effort, that's a 2-year-old versus a 4-year-old. That is a huge, huge thing for me anyway, that I want to be able to see what exactly that horse did. Did he come charging hard down the center of the racetrack? Did he close from off the pace? But if he's facing Bettor's Wish, and all of a sudden he finishes second, beaten 40 lengths, the line looks terrible. But if you watch the actual race, it might actually look a lot better on paper.
Yeah, than it did in the line.
Right.
Hold on. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
So in this case, in this instance, Jack Fire went up against Cricket Fashion. That's what that bold lettering means to the right there, is who they faced that might actually show up in the field. And he faced Cricket Fashion, and we don't have the replay for it, but The one thing that I look at with qualifiers, and this is a great question, Caroline, because a lot of people don't understand what gamblers look at when when you're looking at a qualifying line. The qualifying line specifically has nothing to do with how the horse qualified. It's all about how the horse finished home. Like, I want to see a strong finish. If the horse is a little short, I may say, you know what, maybe that horse needs a start or two. And Seth, from you've worked with horses long enough. Some horses, they're not the
Yeah,
best first or second off the layoff. They need 3 or 4 starts before they get rolling.
before they actually get tight, or even 2 qualifiers before they get tight.
Right. And for some, and Seth, I'm sure you could talk, for days on this. For some, the qualifiers this go around were probably more like racing lines than they were qualifiers, if I had to guess, because you're
Yeah,
trying to
with
figure out
the,
how tight your horses are.
and you have horses that were off, older horses, it's hard to bring back off of longer layoffs too. And you had horses that were off for close 3 months or more that had probably never been off that long since they were either 2 or 3 years old and are now 7. And some of them are probably just now really getting back tight
Yep.
to where they've had now 3 or 4 starts under plus a qualifier.
So Caroline asked about the Always Be Mickeys, and I have to be careful here because I don't want to offend nobody. No, I'm just kidding. So, so the Always Be Mickeys. So let's talk about breeding handicapping for a second. Let's talk about that for a minute, because for some, it is a big, big thing. And like Mike and I talked about earlier, you can delve as far into this as you want. And I am a huge breeding handicapper. I am a firm believer that while the stud, that you could have the best stud, Always Be Mickey, Sebastian K, bar hopping in this race, Father Patrick, while they have the best stud, the producing mare is just as important. And what I look at with those is, if the producing mare produces horses that win first time out, I am circling, I am highlighting, I am putting all sorts of stars around that horse, because that means that mare is capable of producing horses that like to win first time out. Now, they may not go on to successful careers or anything like that, but as a gambler, that is something you have to key in on, because if, say, for instance, and let's find a long shot, number 3, Catello, there we go. 3, Catello, the 2 qualifiers don't look that great. There's really nothing special about those couple of qualifiers, but you go back and look at Shy That Way, and all of a sudden you see she's had 5 foals, and those 5 foals all won their first start out. I am betting this horse. There's nobody who can talk me off of this horse, no matter how bad the qualifiers were, no matter how good they were, no matter how soft they were, any of that, because breeding is such a key in these 2-year-old races. Like I said, I'm more of a mare type of handicapper. To answer Caroline's question, I think the Always Be Mickeys look fantastic. Look at Captain Treacherous right now. I mean, he's got what, Seth, like 5 horses in the Meadowlands Pace this weekend. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see how many captains are in the Meadowlands Pace coming up on Saturday night. So to answer your question about the Always Be Mickeys, I like them a lot. I think they have a big opportunity not to replace the captains, but to compete with them. That is the whole goal with the breeding game, is you want to be able to compete with the other sires. And, while I'm not a huge sire handicapper,
Yeah, he has like Hanover. Good, sorry.
Hanover? No, you're good.
Yeah, has Allywag Hanovers, and he ate tomorrow at Philly too. Probably going to be one of the favorites, I would think, for the Meadowlands Pace. He had, I think, the bye.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second, but the key to this breeding handicapping, at least for me, is all about the mares, and the studs are very important too. But I am a big time mare handicapper. The studs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Seth. They can produce, I think it's 140 foals per year.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, Caroline, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're in breeding too. But that's why I don't handicap off sires so much, is because they can breed so many per year. A lot of mares, obviously, they're only breeding 1 horse or 1 foal per year. So what you want to look for there is a pattern of how that mare is doing. Now, when they start racing, the sires become more and more important. And like I said, the Captain Treacherouses of the world make things interesting. And Seth, if you'd scroll to race 8, let's take a look at Allywag Hanover, who could very well be the pride of Pennsylvania in the Meadowlands Pace this year for Hanover Shoe Farms, is owned by Allywag Stable of Pennsylvania. And you know, one thing about Allywag Hanover that I absolutely love is he's put in 2 starts at the Meadowlands and really closed home strongly in both of those efforts. And when he comes up on the screen here, I'll talk a little bit more about him. But trainer Brett Pelling has had some horses in the Meadowlands Pace. Seth, you, Caroline, Ashley, you guys all might remember a little horse by the name of Rock and Roll Hanover. That was Brett Pelling's Brett Pelling's horse. And you know, Allywag Hanover towards the end of the year last year kind of tapered off. You know, played second fiddle to Poppy Rob Hanover and Tall Dark Stranger. And then all of a sudden, man, the time off, I don't know what it did to Allywag Hanover, but holy smokes, this thing has come back strong, has won 2 straight, received a bye right into the Meadowlands Pace. But this field that he will face tonight or face tomorrow is not a no slouch field. You've got Force and Fury. Looking at it, hold on, my program accidentally closed. Force and Fury, you've got Lake Charles in post number 7. I thought I saw another big one. Tell Them Lou, the Sweet Lou's have been good. So it's just amazing to see what some of these horses could do. And the maturity factor from 2 to 3 is a pretty important one. And Seth, you can kind of touch on that a little bit. Obviously, some horses, they mature well from 2 to 3. Other horses, it takes time. And from 3 to 4 might be the hardest one.
There's a lot of growth that goes on between October and November, the 2-year-old year, to March, the 3-year-old year. And I think that's there's some that get better in that time, and then some that get sort of stay the same, even that don't really improve.
And it's
then
funny,
I think 3 years old when it sort of more evens itself out of the crop.
Well, and what's weird about it, Seth, is a lot of people will say the group from 2 to 3 is important, but the group from 3 to 4 is even more
3 to 4 is
important,
more important
because now
Yeah.
you're having to face some of the older top horses in the sport of harness racing. Look at some of the 4-year-old mares from last year, or excuse me, 3-year-old mares from last year, having to step up and face horses like Caviar Alley and Charton. I mean, come on, it's a lot
It's a
different than facing a
huge-
3-year-old crop.
Yeah,
So Mike Bozich,
and you
back
don't
on
get
the,
from 3 to 4. You usually don't get. He's muted.
okay. Let's see. We got to unmute him here somehow. Let's see. I believe you can do it, Seth.
I don't know if it'll let. I tried earlier. Oh, there. Ask to unmute.
Mike Bozich muted. That's the
There
way
you
we
go.
like
Oh,
it. We like to
that-
have him muted.
that is music to a lot of people's ears, me being muted.
But we were talking about, Mike, the growth from 3 to 4, how difficult it is. We were looking at Allywag Hanover, obviously grew from 2 to 3, but how difficult sometimes it is growing from 3 to 4 years old.
Well, that's what Jess Scott said on the program this morning and Post Time with Mike and Mike, is that, you know, the toughest thing is for horses to grow from 3 to 4. And, you know, and it's very simple because, you know, if you're 2, you're age restricted. If you're 3, in a lot of cases, you're age restricted, especially in stakes events. And then you go up to 4, and all of a sudden you're facing 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds. You're facing seasoned competition. So, you know, the physical growth, I think, from 3 to 4, and I think they're right. You know, it's very, very important. And, you know, as handicappers, I think we have to be aware of that. You know, I mean, there's a lot of horses that, you know, you'll look at the earnings as a 3-year-old and wow, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. And then, you know, they start the 4-year-old campaigns against horses that, you know, have been around the block and, you know, for a lack of a better term, they get it handed to them.
So anyways, so that's basically the keys, at least to my wagering, to the wagering aspect that I use. I'm a big breeding handicapper. I'm big on the stats and things of that sort. But the biggest takeaway I want anybody who's new and watching this to take away is keep it simple. Don't try to go too intricate and make smart wagers. Make smart bets. If you're gonna put $2 down to make $2.20, that's not a smart bet. Make smart wagers, and if you don't know, ask somebody. That is what people at the racetracks are there for. Or email the PHRA, send them a Facebook message. I'm sure Seth would love to answer questions.
Even a form on our website at penhorseracing.com. If they fill it out, we can answer questions.
I mean, it's just ask questions. That's the real goal. If I had one takeaway from this whole thing, is just make smart wagers and bet into smart pools. There are pools that have, high effective takeout. We won't get to that. But it's one of those things that you want to bet into smart pools, and you want to bet smart. Don't bet, where you're losing money in the long run.
Let's, yeah, go ahead, Seth.
They wanted to know if we could go over a little bit more on how to read the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. I want to touch on something real quick, guys, and then we'll get into how reading the program, because obviously it's very important. But I do want to talk about, before we go, is I do want to give some of the maybe, I don't want to say the term expert handicapper, but I do want to give some more advanced advice before we get off the air. But reading the program is very important. Mike, if you want to go ahead and touch on it, we got, what do we got? Somebody I treasure.
Yeah, we got somebody I treasure. The question also was where can they obtain a program? And the most programs are available via the TrackMaster website. That is the program you're looking at right now. You can head to trackmaster.com. You can head to ustrotting.com and get a program. As far as the thoroughbred side, you can go to Equibase, Daily Racing Form, Bristnet.com. There are programs everywhere. But taking a look at reading the program, Seth, can you move your cursor over to date/race and just kind of move with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically the first column you see is race date and where they raced, and the race number. So this horse happened to race on June 20th at the Meadowlands in race number 8. Jessica Otten is tuning in, so Jessica might have seen this horse. The next column you see is the track condition. You may see fast, you may see sloppy, you may see slow, you may see snow, you may see muddy, I'm missing some, yielding, wet, fast. There's a bunch of track conditions that you might be able to see. Frozen, there's another good one. Icy, frozen, whatever. And then the next line you'll see is the purse, along with the condition of the race, which in this case was a 3-year-old condition event for 9 winners of 2. And then you'll see the times of the race. So in this instance, the horse went 27-3, 55-1, 122-4, and the race was timed in 148-2. The next thing you'll see is the speed rating based on TrackMaster. If you are a thoroughbred player, this is what you would call the speed figures. Help me out here, Seth. The buyer speed figure. That's what it is. Thanks, Mike. The buyer speed figure. And then you'll look at the line. Basically, this just shows you where they were at each call in the race, starting from the start of the race all the way through to the end of the race. Then what you'll see is their last quarter, which, Mike, I put a lot of credence into. In this case, this horse came home in 25-4 at the Meadowlands. I know.
The most overrated thing in racing, but go ahead.
Shake your head. And then it shows you the driver and who the horse faced. Mike, why is it overrated? Because I know Seth's going to ask that question.
I'm just agree with him.
Oh, man.
The last quarter is overrated because, when everybody, you have to look at the chart, and this is a big thing. I think that, listen, if you, and a lot of people don't have time to do replays. Okay. If you don't do replays, at least do look at the chart. Because you know what? A 26 quarter last quarter is worthless if everybody else did a last 26.
That
26
fast.
Well, you want to
Okay.
know where that last quarter actually comes from? And I chart races, so I can tell you where it comes from. What it does is it does a mathematical figure from the 3/4 call to the finish line. And if you're not on the lead, then it's guessing based on the amount of lengths you made up or what have you.
That's interesting.
It's not a guess. There's a mathematical figure. I don't know exactly what it is, but the
I think
computer is doing a
E-Track-
mathematical figure that E-Track does that comes up with that final quarter time. Now, if you're on the lead, obviously the final quarter is the final quarter. But in this instance, where the horse was 7th by 5 3/4 and passed 2 horses, passed 4 horses through the stretch, but still got beat 7 1/4 lengths. It's doing a mathematical figure based on the amount of lengths that you were beaten to come up with that last quarter time.
It's so important. There's so many things on that last quarter. I mean, number one, I think you have to look at charts because you have to see what everybody else did in the race. You have to see how soft things were up top. You have to see if everybody closed. I don't know. I just think last quarters are so over. If you're looking for weakness in the public selection, public just drools over last quarter. And you know what I like to look at? I am much more of a
Here
fan
we go.
of a horse. Now listen, I am much more of a fan of looking at a horse that makes a move in the middle of the race. Okay, preferably uncovered. Okay, even with cover, if you see a horse with a sharp middle move, and even if he tires a little bit towards the end, especially if it's the first or second start out, and you can expect this horse to get better, you can expect him to be tighter after a start or two. Give me that any day of the week. I just think last quarters are so, I don't want to say they're bogus, but you know what? I'm just of the opinion that every horse now can do 51 and every horse can close in 26.
You know what my opinion is? You need another haircut. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You were waiting on that. Mike Carter, you were waiting on that. You were sitting on that. You told me during the show today at 10:30 in the morning that you were going to pull that out, and you did.
Anyways, but the wager,
I might lose connection again.
Yeah, the Wager Warriors promotion is something that I think benefits the state of Pennsylvania, benefits the fans, and does a fantastic job. You can visit their website, phra.com. There's a question forum there where you can ask questions. You can submit a video of yourself handicapping a race. I believe you'll win a swag bag if you could do that. There's lots of really great opportunities. Follow this Facebook page. I know I shared it. I know Mike Bozet shared it. I'm sure Seth and Ashley and those guys all shared it as well. But please, if you have questions, reach out to us on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever, because we'll be willing to, walk you through and give you some of what we think is going to get you to the winner's circle. And as if you've ever played my selections, you'll know I don't get to the winner's circle very often. No, I'm just kidding. But
you look at last quarters. That's why.
That's right. That's right.
And
so,
Mike, let me ask you a question, Mike, real quick. I don't want to get into a spirited discussion here, but let me ask you a question. We have had trainers and drivers exclusively on our program. We've been doing the Post Time with Mike and Mike show now for about 3 or 4 years, right?
5, but yes.
Maybe 5 years. Okay. How many times when we asked a trainer and driver an opinion about their horse, how many times have they mentioned last quarters?
Goodbye.
None. None.
Mike drop. Good call.
None. Hey, listen, you know what? And that's the great thing about it. But you know what, though? I think we're proving right now that's the great thing about the sport of harness racing is, and horse racing and thoroughbred racing too, is that everybody attacks it from a different angle. And you know what, Mike and Seth? Nothing, honestly, like we're just talking back and forth right now, but no opinion is wrong.
Right.
No opinion is wrong. It's just the way you look at it and the way you have success at it. And you know what? If you find something that works for you handicapping, do it. And don't listen to other people that try to tell you this is the wrong way. If you find success at it, do it, because that's the thing about parimutuel wagering is that your job is to beat the other person. And that's what makes our sport great, if you guys want my opinion.
Seth, what were you going to ask?
We just wanted real quick too, for Wager Warriors, thank the Standardbred Breeders of Pennsylvania, because they give us a sponsorship every summer to do this, and enough this year that we can actually do the thoroughbred tracks as well. So we've got all 6 tracks this year for Wager Warriors, and we've been able to do the past performances.
Awesome. Well,
And
oh, good.
Real quick, if you go on to PennHorseRacing.com, there's a tab in the upper right-hand corner. It says Wager Warriors and free PPs. If you go to that, there's a link to download past performances for tomorrow night at Penn National. Next Friday, we'll have from Harris, Philadelphia. And once you download the program, if you go up to the Learn tab, there's if in the drop-down menu, how to read a program. If you click on that, you can actually move your program up side by side. And there's an example program that you can hover over, and it'll highlight what each thing in the program is.
All right. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your Thursday night to join us. Wager Warriors, wager often. Make sure to check out the PHRA website. For Mike Bozich, I'm Mike Carter. We'll see you at the betting window.